Hello and welcome to part two of TCM Howzat, where we are talking about all the things that have happened in domestic cricket this month. Joining me are the same two people who joined me in the last one, unfortunately. It's Harrison Burridge and Rob Rush.
Sorry, where's the leave button?
Wait till we talk about Hampshire versus Leicestershire for that, mate. Let's start. Actually, we're going to start there, I think, just to rub in the pain. Let's start by talking about the One Day Cup final, because Leicestershire have won their first major trophy since 1997 after a thrilling win at Trent Bridge last weekend. I previewed this with Aaron, and he was saying it would be quite the upset if Leicestershire managed to do it, and they did. Harrison, what did you make of Leicestershire's performance?
It was real credit and I guess kind of testament to the ODI format and what it can throw at, because they're about 100 for six and 19 for four, then it's about 100 for six batting first. And for all money, when I left the house at that point, I just thought Hampshire should have enough will, power and strength and depth to get over the line, but they didn't. And that's fantastic innings from Sam Evans and Harry Swindles. I mean, the story around Swindles' innings and what happened in the days before is special, and exactly what kind of stories cricket throws up and why we love the game so much, because for him to come out and do that in front of a roaring crowd, which fair to say, I think there were a lot of football fans related to Leicester, but they came up, they had a good day and they made it a great atmosphere, and it kind of made the occasion what it was. And Leicester should fully deserve the victory. There's no point kind of sugarcoating that. Hampshire, they let it slip, they've let other things slip in other games this year. It's kind of a common theme for them, but tumultuous season for Leicestershire, and to kind of get your first piece of silver for that amount of time is fantastic, and why we love cricket ultimately. I'm still angry though.
Are you sure? I was going to say, are you sure it's why you love cricket? Leicestershire, obviously, a very dominant performance. This is a club that I suppose it's fair to say has gone through a bit of, as Harrison said, a tumultuous time, losing their head coach, Paul Nixon, halfway through, well, at the very start of the season this year. Rob, where do they go from here? And does it just cement the fact that we need an 18 county system to have stories like this of brilliance?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Anyone suggesting anything other than 18 county system can get in the bin. Yes, the 18 county system needs to stay, and it just needs to be improved upon with the existing counties in place. Look, and Leicestershire still have a chance of getting promoted to Division 1 this year. If they're able to gain victory against Yorkshire this week and then go up to Durham final week of the season and turn them over, they could well be looking at second place and joining Durham in Division 1 next year. Look, as you say, the whole Paul Nixon thing, I know there were a fair few fans that were worried. Not very many were with the decision. The board have also said that we weren't really consulted on it, so there was a whole period of uncertainty. I think it gave a lot of motivation to the players as well to go out and say, well, look, we're still the talking point here. And look, they were dominant throughout the entire One Day Cup campaign. I think if you were paying attention to it and watching it as it go along, they were the runaway side in their group, and throughout the entire tournament, really, no one really came close to them. I think Hampshire got quite fortunate that our opponent in the semi-final, I think, had a bit of a batting collapse, and we were able to kind of just coast through off the back of that, really. But Leicestershire were by far and away the best one-day side this year, so thoroughly deserving of their victory. And look, as you say, it brings a little bit of light to the end of what has been a pretty tumultuous season off the field. And now they can now look to the off season and look to get a head coach in place, maybe reevaluate where they are as a club, what they need to do to head up to Division 1 next year, because there'll be guys that are staying in that team for next year going, look, we're probably going to finish third, and the worst they're going to finish is the third in Division 2. That will probably put them as favourites to head up next year. So, they need to build on this. They can't sit on it. They've got to now look for ways to keep going forward.
Well, that was my question, Harrison. Some big name departures from Leicestershire at the end of the season, including Colin Ackerman, Callum Parkinson, etc. Is this a final swan song for the team that's been at Leicestershire for so long?
In many ways, it is, and I'm sure we'll get on to it when we talk about the Division Two promotion race. Worcestershire in a similar boat. They've got so many key players leaving, so it's kind of like whoever goes up out of them, it's going to be a brand new squad in so many aspects, competing at a higher level, which is kind of unheard of when you think about any sort of team sports with promotion in these senses. But you could see even like, there's always been a lot of talk. Rob's kind of touching on how Leicester have been affected this season, but I kind of focused on Corin Ackerman in those celebrations when they did win, and you could just see what it meant to him. This has been a club he's been with for several years now. He's been a key part of the side, and yes, he is moving on to Durham at the end of the season, but he's moving on, leaving the club in a fantastic position and a group of players who have experienced success, which not many counties can say, and many groups of players can say, which is invaluable experience.
Invaluable experience. You both touched on Division 2 there. Let's stick with that then. And the promotion race is on. Rob, I know you're itching at the bit to talk a bit about Durham. So let's go with that. They're going to get promoted, presumably. How happy are you with how their season has gone in the county championship?
Well, I'll factually correct you. They are, as we record, have just been confirmed champions of Division 2. So get your facts straight. Thank you very much.
Outrageous. I mean,
look, I remember I'd sat down to do the preview with you at the start of the season after their media day, and pretty much I said that any Durham fan just listening to Ryan Campbell would have heard exactly what he wanted to hear. They're going to be attacking minded. They're going to go for the win, and they're going to try and get promoted. And they've done all that this year. Like they had some very smart additions over the offseason. Ollie Robinson coming in from Kent has been an absolute steal. I know Kent fans have been in Durham's comment section every time he's done something brilliant, going, why the hell did we let him leave? Matthew Potts and Ben Rain both picking up 50 county championship wickets again is phenomenal. Bryden Cast has decided to put in good performances with the bat. Alex Lees has reinvented himself as an opener after being dropped by England, is now looking like a very good batter once more. David Bedingham has chipped in with key contributions. Graham Clark had not played red ball cricket in basically 2 years and is now, I think, probably, as all goes well, finished with an average of about 40 on the season. So, this is a club last year that their head coach left midway through the season. The whole environment had turned toxic. It's been a complete breath of fresh air with Ryan Campbell and his staff coming in. Can't really praise those guys enough for what they've done. They've really just given the players the freedom and the confidence to go out and chase wins. And to be quite honest, no one's come close to them in Div 2 this year. The only loss they have was at Sussex opening game of the season where they had a batting collapse in the third innings. Apart from that, they've been unbeaten in red ball ever since. Sides have not known how to play them, how to bowl to them, how to build up scores against them. And Durham have had the confidence to go, you can set us 350 in 4 sessions and we're going to go chase it down and we're going to go win this game. So, it's been fantastic to be a part of, fantastic to watch, very up close and personal. Being around the team, you can tell there's a really family atmosphere around it. And honestly, I don't think they'll struggle as much as people might expect them to in Div 1 next year. Looking at teams like Surrey, Hampshire, I think Lancashire maybe is slightly in this as well, Simon. Teams that haven't scored quite as quickly this year in terms of getting those batting bonus points. Obviously, the step up in bowling attacks, Durham aren't going to get so fortunate to rack up 450 in a day pretty much every time next year in Division 1. But they will still go at 4.5 and over. They're still going to go and put runs on the board. So for Division 1 teams next year, they're going to come up to Chester Street and they're going to have to host Durham. And their mindset's going to have to change a little bit in terms of if Durham do end up racking up 450 in a day, they've got the bowling attack as well to go, we could bowl you out twice here and have a very cheap second innings target to win. So, it's been a phenomenal season from everyone involved at the club. They've had several loanees as well, which won't be, Matt Parkinson will be there at the end of the season, Vishwa Fernando as well. But Matt Kuhneman earlier on in the season played a really good part before he unfortunately got injured. Everyone's contributed when they've been asked to. And look, it's been a really nice style of cricket to watch, really close. We talk about England white ball cricket and how that was kind of trend setting. Durham has kind of been a bit of a trendsetter in red ball cricket this year of how teams need to play. We saw earlier in Div 1 this year, I think Notts and Middlesex on the final day agreed to a chase of about 140 in 20 overs to set up a decider rather than just playing out a boring draw. I mean, I probably waxed lyrical way too much about them, but it's been fantastic to be a part of. Obviously, there'll be a lot of celebration next week after we finish playing Leicestershire, and there'll no doubt be a lot of celebrations going on and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been fantastic to be a part of, and Ryan Campbell's spoken to TalkSport about that. I remember speaking to him at Media Day. They're not coming to Div 1 next year to just stay up. They're coming up to win games, and he wants to win Div 1. I'm not saying it's going to happen next year, but that is the long-term plan. Durham want to win Division 1. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they do next year, who they bring in over the winter to try and, the only thing is they're now getting more England call-ups. Matthew Potts and Bryden Cars are now becoming more regulars of not being available every game. Alex Lees might now be in contention to be part of England's squads as a backup opener. So, yeah, that will be the only thing they've got going against them. But, yeah, it's been a phenomenal Division 2 season, absolutely blown the competition away. And I think a lot of sides in Division 1 next year are going to be in for a bit of an awakening when they come to Chester Street or when they host Durham and see how they play their cricket.
Fighting talk from you there, Rob, and I think it's fair to say Durham have had a fantastic season. Someone else who's had a fantastic season is Worcestershire, and we sort of touched on them, I believe, before. But third in the T20 Blast, third in the One Day Cup, and potentially second in Division 2, if not already confirmed. I mean, Harrison, that is some season from them, given the fact I think before the season, nobody was really looking at them as someone who was going to have a lot of success this year.
Well, ironically, on another podcast, I did say they'd go up in Division 2. So, not obviously some people saw the light.
Shameless.
Keggy's been done twice in 2 questions. He's been absolutely done.
Similar story to Leicestershire in the sense, because they are seen by many as that smaller county and kind of inferior and not a threat, but they've kind of just blown that out of the water. We know T20 wise, they're always going to be up and around there. They've built a fortress at New Road and find ways to win and score runs quickly, and they've carried that over to the other formats. Had their own international call-up in Josh Dung this summer, and he's had a fantastic time with England and with Worcestershire when he's been available with injury and whatnot. So it's been, for Worcestershire, a special season. They are losing, I think it's like 3 or 4 first teamers, potentially more to other counties, particularly I think Nottinghamshire getting a few of them at the end of the season. So that's be a big blow for them to suffer whatever happens, whether they go up or stay in Division 2. But they've kind of again shown there's a place for the so perceived smaller counties in the system and blown any ridiculous assumptions out the water and said, we're here to compete, and Alan Richardson, the coach, and the players have backed that up perfectly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you can add there because they've just been fantastic this year. From one team who's been fantastic to another, which I've just written on my sheet, WTF, Middlesex. I mean, they've been in trouble for years, particularly financial trouble, but they've not really had much success this year across the county game, have they, Rob?
No, not really. And you mentioned the financial issues. They were also hit with some suspended fines and points deductions, I think, last week, if not the week before, for failure to comply with certain financial regulations and stuff. Yeah, their batting has kind of been non-existent this year in Div 1, and against the quality of bowling attacks, when you're playing Surrey twice a year, when you've got to face Hampshire's bowling attack at least once, Essex's bowling attack, if you don't have a batting order that has at least some bit of a backbone, you're putting your bowlers in an unforgivable position of trying to win the game after being bowled out for 140, 150 every week. They're doing a bit of a scrap right now with Kent as to who goes down to Division 2 next year. They need every points they can get. They're fortunate that last week they were able to secure a draw and Kent drew as well. So kind of they offset each other there. But yeah, Pieter Milan's headed back to South Africa. Tim Murtaugh's retiring. He's had a fantastic county career. I think a lot of county batters will be quite thankful that next year they won't have to face him at Lords on a green top. Maybe a little better batting average for them. But as I said, the batting has been non-existent. They're putting the bowlers in unforgivable positions to try and win games. I mean, the one bright spot you could say is Josh De Caires. who originally came into the side as a top order batter, and is now turning himself into a number 7 who can bowl very handy off spin. I think he took 7 against Hampshire in like his first game of the season or something. So that's probably the only bit of saving grace I've got for them. They're going to battle like crazy to stay in Division 1, because I dare not think about what financial repercussions will be there if they do get relegated to Division 2. Just that, as we said, like with Leicestershire, they need to think about ways they can keep going forward. I think at Middlesex it's a bit of a reset in terms of, look, if they do scrape survival in Division 1, they need to look at themselves and go, right, what can we do? I mean, I know they're very limited financially. They've had the ECB block signings of players due to concerns over the financial viability of them. So they're very hamstrung. But look, whether it's change of coaches, saying it like in the batting and bowling department, is it giving the youngsters a bit more of a chance, as we've seen with Josh De Cares? Look, something needs to change. They can't keep going on like this, because even if they do somehow scrape survival, they're probably odds-on favourites to go straight down next year. So something desperately needs to change.
Let's talk about a big story for another county that emerged last week, and that is at Sussex. Pretty serious story going on there, and that is Pajara handed a one-match ban, and Sussex fined 12 county championship points for repeated breaches of discipline in their match against Leicestershire last week. 4 fixed penalties within the same season now for them, Harrison. What is going on down at Hove?
Who knows? I think a lot of fans kind of came out the woodwork when all this news came out and just said, I'm not surprised this has happened. What's Farbrace doing, etc., etc. But I think I've talked so much already on this episode about why we love cricket. The instance last week in their game against Leicestershire is the ugly side of cricket and why we don't like it. I think Jack Carson attempted to trip up Ben Cox when he was turning for a run at the non-strikers, and that's just why. What are you doing? That's just ridiculous. Like, there's a reason we play cricket and not football or rugby. That belong in other sports and not here. And then by all reports, other players who Sussex have internally kind of banned for this kind of round of fixtures were for send-offs and other comments made. And there's a big discriminatory. Just getting around, there's the big discriminatory one looming over Carvelas, like Rob says, which is not good at all for the game's image, etc. So it's been worrying, because when you look at it from the outside, it's been a season of improvement for Sussex, like Leicestershire and Worcestershire. They found themselves in the race for promotion to Division 2, which many wouldn't have thought. Sorry, promotion to Division 1, which many wouldn't have thought at the start of the season, especially with Yorkshire and Gloucestershire falling off and not performing how they would have expected to. But these are bad taste, I think, for the season as a whole, because you don't want these incidents to kind of come on a big level at one county with so many players involved.
I think the only positive you can really take from that situation is that Sussex have dealt with it internally. Yeah. They've not waited for the ECB to step in and give them the punishments themselves. I think, the statements that Jack Carson and Tom Haynes was the other individual that was banned for this, they kind of internally said, we're not playing you this game, along with Chetwar Pujara. The statements kind of were a little bit just very vague in terms of, I was a naughty boy, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Whereas, there needs to be, as Harrison said, I think some of the Sussex fans are kind of quite rightly on social media been putting a foot down and saying something seriously wrong here at this club, and it starts internally, and that kind of behaviour on the field is just it stuff's leaked over there that really shouldn't have leaked over. As Harrison said, no matter if you're an MCC member or not, or you're just like us, kind of just regular cricket fans, there is a reason why we play it with respect, and players play it with respect, and we treat each other respectfully. We're not like football, we're not like rugby. This is a gentleman's game of respect and a ladies' game of respect as well. Just ugly scenes. You don't really want to see that in cricket. I know it's cliche, but again, as I said, with Middlesex, something really needs to change, whether it's, something needs to change at Sussex next year. I think the talk of they don't really have a proper captain in terms of to stamp this behaviour out. This behaviour shouldn't really have been allowed to happen in the first place, let alone happen twice really in the same game. I think more with Tom Haynes, it was a bit of the send-offs were getting a little bit unsavoury and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, just something needs to change. They'll be looking at it. And, as Harrison said, this has taken them out of promotion for Division 2. I think promotion from Division 2. I know it was looking very unlikely anyway after they lost up at Chester Street. It's kind of put their nail in the coffin. But if things had still gone their way, they could have got promoted. It's firmly taken them out of that. Another season of staying in Division 2. Yeah, they'll be looking at it. And Paul Farbrace isn't exactly the type of individual to mince his words or, let things slide. I think he did a 6-minute interview with the BBC Radio Sussex commentator after one of the games, and he pretty much just went in on everyone. He said it countless times. We have got a young squad, but youth is not an excuse. You still need to perform. You need to learn how to win games, and that's kind of a little bit where they are. Obviously, they've not really been helped by the fact that Ollie Robinson, when he's not been on England duty, is unavailable. And I don't think there's been any official word from England about, is he injured? Is he not? It's just kind of, Ollie's not available. It's kind of like, well, great. That's a guy who could, before he was in the England setup regularly, he was tearing up Division 2 for fun. So, they're obviously not helped. Jofra Archer, Tamal Mills being away / not really there. Stephen Finn's retired mid-season. I know he wasn't really seen a lot, but he's a popular figure around the club. They also lost a player mid-season. His name temporarily escapes me, but he left mid-season. His contract terminated mutually.
Rawlins?
Yeah, Delray Rawlins. He's left mid-season. So, yeah, there needs to be some change at Sussex as well.
A sour taste for Sussex, then I think it's fair to say. Shall we have a bit of positivity? No, we shan't, because I'm going to talk about Lancashire now. And
get your popcorn.
Comfy, grab your popcorn. I think it's been an incredibly frustrating season, is what I'd say. I will back this team and Keaton Jennings and Glenn Chappell's to the hills and back. I have been backing them now for years. Before this season, the start of this season, I was excited by the prospect of them winning trophies. But to come out of this year with not a single trophy again, no silverware now since 2015 and the T20 Blast, a lack of signings to replace departures at the end of the season, I'm getting worried. I can't lie. I am getting worried. And it's sad to see. It's hard to be a Lancashire fan right now because you just want them to perform better. It's almost like something is just not clicking. And I don't know what needs to change, but it feels that now maybe something perhaps does. I mean, I will still back Keaton Jennings as a captain because I think he's a phenomenal captain, but we are really needing to get our shit together in the off-season and get some signings in because I think it's been a pretty dismal season from our point of view.
Are you fully on that side of things of more we need to recruit rather than giving youngsters an opportunity? That's the only reason I can think of just listening to you there.
That's not my point is we've always had a strong academy. We always have these young players coming through, but we need to intersperse them with talent from elsewhere and experienced players. And I feel that with, the loss of Dane Villas, Stephen Croft potentially going into maybe his last season next year, who knows, losing these experienced heads in the dressing room. And when England players are away, because we've got a lot of England talent as well, I do feel that we need to get some experience in the dressing room. But the one thing I would firmly say is that people are talking about Glenn Chappell and his future as coach and Mark Chilton and his future as director of cricket. And I don't think a change in them would achieve anything. In fact, I think it might quite possibly do the opposite. But yeah, in general, I'm disappointed. Bring on 2024. To end on a positive note, bring on 2024. That's all I can say, because it's just gutting to watch your team lose in so many quarterfinals in one year. Harrison, let's get another opinion on this. Where do you think Lancashire have gone wrong this season?
Well, I think you've summed up well. You've got to see the fans' perspective and kind of being that loyal fan. I think just kind of looking in, they've let so many games slip away from this. If you go to county championship, they start day one fantastically, the first session and a half, but then the rest of the day they've just gone missing. It's been a bit of a common theme. Opposition gets back in the game, any chance of win's gone. I think you drew so many of those first few games, which then just kills any hopes of silverware, especially in championship, when you've got a side like Surrey who are a winning machine. So, I mean, it's a lot of great stories. George Balderson's become more prominent and had a fantastic season across the formats. That's been really good to watch. But you mentioned that if you're going to lose Dane Villas, that's a big player to replace regardless. It does look like Keith Jennings is kind of ready-made to step up into those shoes as captain, which makes any transition easier. But still, same, that's a spot now in the middle order. You're going to have to look at filling. Maybe so you get Phil Salt available kind of at the start of the season if you don't have IPL deals or stuff like that. So that's always a positive because he had, I think, a fantastic couple of games in Red Bull. I believe he scored 100 or something of the kind against Hampshire at Southport. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I can see from what you're saying. Whereas last year it was so many, like, it was second place in the Red Bull and final defeat here, final defeat there. This year, not even getting to the finals. It's kind of, you've gone backwards, but I think time will tell because I think you do need to make some signings because there are a few spots vacant in that side.
And I would say young players, George Bell, George Balderson, the likes of the people coming through the academy, they have been the stars of Lancashire this season. Right, enough about me and my team doing badly. Let's talk about another team doing badly, which is Kent, because they've been underwhelming and they're probably going to get relegated. Rob Rush, what's happened to them this season? What has happened?
Again, similar to Middlesex, the batting has not really been there for them. I remember on the county circuit last year, there was a lot of talk about how Kent's wicket-keeping department was arguably one of the best on the circuit because they had three kind of arguably first-choice wicket-keepers that were around the whole season available for Red Bull cricket. They've gone from 3 to none in the space of a year. Ollie Robinson left to join Durham, and he's been vindicated. Sam Billings, for if it's personal reasons, I don't know, probably lack of form, I think, at the time, has kind of stepped away from Red Bull cricket. And Jordan Cox is now joining Essex next year. So now they're down to Harry Finch, who's been their wicketkeeper in Red Bull cricket for the last few games, actually not done too badly. But the batting's not been there. And even looking at like the bowling lineup for their current game against, the current game they're playing, there's maybe like one or two frontline bowlers, and within 20 overs of the first innings, they're going to Daniel Bell Drummond. You know, they signed Yuzi Chahal on a loan deal for the back end of the season. He played the first game of a 3-game spell, and he's been dropped for the second game. What are they doing? What are they doing? This is a guy who's played tons of international cricket, has bamboozled the best batters on the international circuit. And he's being dropped for a Div 1 game when they're in a relegation scrap. I don't know what's going on. They've got some changes upstairs. I think Simon Cook, or I don't know if I've got that right.
I think it's their director of cricket's leaving, I believe.
Yeah, but they've got someone to replace him. But, Kent fans aren't exactly they're not exactly happy about that. They would have preferred, I think, a different appointment. They don't think they're going to see much change in the style of cricket that they're going to play next year. Everything that kind of pretty much could go wrong over the last 12 months has gone wrong. I don't think Ben Compton has had quite the same sort of year he had last year. Maybe second season syndrome has kicked in a little bit for him. Not having your club captain, I think it can be, Billings didn't play a lot of cricket for them anyway because he was away with franchise deals and stuff and everything. But when he's brought back in and then kind of after a few games says, and admittedly by his own standards, he said he didn't perform well, he drops back out. The instability there, you look at a team like Surrey, a team like Essex, why have they done well so much? Why have they been able to be consistently great? Because they've had a team pretty much from the first weekday of the season to the last weekday of the season that has been the same, or they've adapted to the conditions they needed to, and they've gone out and beat teams. Kent don't look capable of beating a side at the minute, and that is ultimately what's going to send you down if you don't win games. As I mentioned, they're in a fight with Middlesex. I'm not quite sure who they've both got final week of the season, but it is do or die for both of them going into the final week of the season. It probably starts with the wicketkeeper scenario and then it trickles in everything else. The bowling attack, when 42-year-old Michael Hogan is needing to be your leading bowler, that kind of says it all in itself, really. You don't really have a lot of anything else. They let Matt Milnes go to join Yorkshire. They probably haven't been done fair with injury luck, I think it's safe to say as well. That probably comes into the bit. Obviously, they don't see Zach Crawley a lot because he's now away with England and other franchises. So he's not around all the time. And when he has been around, he's looked pretty decent.
I am going to put in there, Rob, because we only have 6 minutes left of recording time. So I want to just quickly run through some of the other sides. I mean, I think you touched brilliantly on Kent's issues there. Surrey Division 1, worthy winners, Harrison, yes or no?
Easy, yes. I think last season they showed what they can do and they've come out and backed up. They always say it's hard to go back to back, and they've done that with a similar group of players and some new faces, such as Tom Law's continuous increased rise with the side. And I think you can't argue when they inevitably lift that trophy, albeit Hampshire could have a say in the final round when they play them, which would be quite nice, but they are the deserving winners if it was to happen.
And Hampshire, we haven't really mentioned them, but Rob, if you could sum up in a sentence their season, what would you go for?
Batting woes come back to cost us yet again. Until you get a solid top order, you will not win anything. Fletcher Middleton's been great in his first season, but until you stop the carousel of everyone of who's his opening partner, no matter how good your bowling attack is, you're not going to win games if you can't put runs on the board. So maybe it's looking at how we spend our bowling resources, and maybe it's time to break up Abbott and Abbas and spend some money on a quality overseas batter. But yeah, we need to stop the batting woes before we can talk about anything. I will say this though. You mentioned you're annoyed at Lancashire not getting 20 finals. We did get through to both white ball final events, so I will take that, especially after we beat a certain county in the T20 Blast final last year.
But you're still hanging on to last year, but you also.
Well, it's better than what you're starting on to 2015, mate. So I'm not hanging on to anything here.
Let me just remind you that you also just lost in a final and a semi-final as well. So no silverware, really. We're in the same.
You got to get there to be part of it. You can't relate to that, so.
A medal's a medal.
Your 2015 T20 Blast is still sitting there in the trophy cabinet, getting a bit dusty, mate. You might want to go dust it off ahead of next year, where it won't be joined by anything again.
Oh wow! I mean, that is harsh. I think we spent a lot of time talking about our teams and everything. If this is the last sort of county review we do, Harrison, if you could spotlight one sort of moment, your personal highlight of the county season, what would it be?
That's very hard. I think that's even harder than the international one we just did a short while ago. But I'll just go Hampshire's One Day Cup campaign as a whole, because I enjoy seeing the youngsters getting increased prominence in this tournament, what it does for them, and seeing the young group combined with the experience there and dovetail so well for continued success in that tournament. It's last year's semi-final, this year final. They keep getting close, and it's just really good to watch different faces perform at the high level.
And Rob, I think I know what you might say. But dare I ask the same question?
Just Durham season in entirety, mate. It's been fantastic. Can't wait to see what they do next year. It's been a great fun to be a part of. Long way to continue next year. Division 1 sides, look out.
And for me, I'm not going to sit on the fence this time. I'm going to go for Dane Villas and making 100 in his final game of domestic cricket. Dane, you are my hero. You are a hero. Enjoy your retirement, buddy. Hope it brings you lots of fun. Right. The 2023 county season has been absolutely packed. I think it's fair to say we've enjoyed watching it. Lots of stories that we didn't expect in April coming around in September. I don't know what I'm going to do without county cricket for a good 6 months. I think I'm going to be a lost cause. Anyway, my thanks to Rob and Harrison for joining us for this one. We didn't touch on all counties, but we got the most important ones in, didn't we? Anyway, if you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. World Cup content is coming next. Goodbye for now.